they became the poster children of the Eurozone crisis, forced into bailouts to avoid bankruptcy. Greece was the first out the gate, accepting a €110 billion bailout in 2010, then another €130 billion package in 2012. Next was Ireland, agreeing to an €85 billion lifeline at the end of 2010. Portugal then followed suit in May 2011, striking a deal for a €78 billion plan. The reasons for their misfortune were different. Ireland, once known as the Celtic Tiger, was dragged down trying to save its banking sector. But none of the three had much choice as concerns over their debts rose. All other funding avenues were shut as borrowing costs spiked. In return for the bailouts, the Greek, Irish and Portuguese governments agreed to austerity.
We had to act decisively to show investors and markets and our international partners that we were serious about fixing our economic problems.
Taxes were raised and budgets cut, sparking protests from squeezed populations. 5 years after the rescues began, the fates of Greece, Ireland and Portugal diverge. The Irish and Portuguese economies are growing after their bailouts ended in 2013 and 2014. The Greek economy grew last year, but has slipped back into recession. Jobless rates have declined from record highs, but the Greek rate of above 25% remains the highest in the Eurozone. After years in the doldrums, the Portuguese and Irish economies are slowly heading towards recovery. But in Greece, the situation is only getting worse, with warnings the standoff with its creditors will only tax the economy even further.
So, what worked in Ireland and Portugal? To talk more about that, we can turn now to Brian Hayes. He's currently a member of the European Parliament, and he used to be Ireland's Deputy Finance Minister. Welcome, first of all, to the programme.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Irish economy is growing rapidly again, at least with European standards. Would you say that Ireland is a success story when it comes to Eurozone bailouts?
Well, I think we are quite a success story, yes. I mean, the fact that we are now out of the programme, we're back to the international money markets at very competitive rates, is the real litmus test as to whether or not a country or an economy can stand on its own 2 feet again. And I said at the time when we left the programme, now that we were out of the programme, we had to stay out of the programme. So it's really important that small open economies like Ireland and even Portugal can obtain money on the international money markets at competitive rates. That's the real litmus test. The fact also that unemployment 3 years ago in Ireland was at 15.5%, now is just below 10%. Our budget deficit has slowed very substantially. I think it'll be closer to about 1.5% this year. And I think ultimately, yes, we've made a success of our programme by taking ownership of the programme and not blaming other people, saying it's a matter for other countries that they were imposing this on us. Rather, we took ownership as a people and I think as a government. And I think even though there are many difficulties in Ireland and times have been very difficult, there has been a lot of sacrifice by the Irish people, and now we're reaping the rewards in terms of a very substantial growth rate by comparison to the Eurozone countries.
If you look at the Greek economy, though, it's contracted by around about a quarter since the financial crisis, which means that the Greek economy is much worse off than the Irish economy, and the Greek government is blaming austerity for that. Would you say that creditors were harsher on Greece than they were on Ireland, that Greece has had to go through tougher austerity than Ireland had to?
No, I don't think that at all, actually. If one looks at the programmes and compares the programme in Ireland, or indeed in the Portuguese case, by comparison to Greece, the adjustment was over a longer period of time in the Greek case by comparison to Ireland. And actually, even if you look at the moment in terms of the servicing of the debt as a percentage of GDP, it's much more substantial in the Irish case now than is the case in Greece. You rightly point out to the quarter of reduction in GDP as a consequence of the programme in Greece. In Ireland's case, as I said, it was a fifth or 20%. So I actually think it was the scale of the adjustment in Ireland or Portugal were as tough, actually.
Ireland was seen to play along with international creditors, unlike Greece to a certain extent. Would you say that that was the right strategy for Ireland, to play along with creditors?
Yes, because ultimately it's the creditors who will lend you money. In Greece's case, the great majority of the debt that remains is public sector debt. It's debt to other EU taxpayers. because Ireland's economy is very international, we were very keen to get private sector money back into Ireland again, even in the middle of the programme. Because without that private sector money, you don't have the money for the investment and to grow the economy, or to have surplus money there for businesses and SMEs to get going again. So it was really, really important in Ireland's case that we managed to get private sector money back into Ireland as an example to the world that Ireland is open for business again. Ireland's a very internationalised economy. If one looks at the foreign direct investment side, it's very, very substantial. We have a very high-tech economy. Financial services plays a part. Agri-foods is obviously big as well. So all of those factors in terms of keeping a country open for business is crucially important in encouraging other creditors back into your country. That's the only way ultimately that you're going to prove to the world that you can stand on your own 2 feet again.
All right, Brian Hayes from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. Now, the Greek crisis hasn't caused the same panic on the markets this time around as it did a few years ago. That's partly down to structural and political changes that have taken place since the first bailout in 2010. The European Commissioner responsible for the euro, Valdis Dombrovskis, is keen to stress that the Eurozone is now better defended.
The stability of the euro area is not in question. On 27th of June, the Eurogroup reiterated that the euro area authorities stand ready to do whatever is necessary to ensure financial stability of the euro area. We have everything we need to manage this situation.
So, how well defended is the euro area from financial contagion? Stephen Carroll is here now with more on that. Stephen.
Marcus, you can pretty much pick your dramatic metaphor: firewall, ring fence, war chest. But however you put it, the Eurozone's defences against a debt drama are much stronger now than they were before. The Eurozone's bailout fund can lend up to €500 billion to members in financial difficulty. A loan must be approved by the Eurozone's finance ministers and then a bailout agreement drawn up with the ECB and ideally the IMF. This permanent fund has been used twice already to bail out Cyprus and the Spanish banks. The banks were a weak spot in the Eurozone armour, but banking union has cut the risks that they pose. Those lenders deemed to be systemic are subject to stress tests by the European Central Bank. There's now a procedure to wind up failing banks, preventing a messy collapse. The idea is to stop failing lenders bringing down a whole country, like the way it happened in Ireland. There's been a shift in approach too by the European Central Bank. In 2012, Mario Draghi said the ECB would do whatever it takes to preserve the euro. Those 3 words were instrumental in calming the turbulent bond markets. Then the ECB went shopping for debt, buying the bonds of weaker Eurozone nations. That's now a full-blown monetary stimulus plan worth €1 trillion. It helps too that a recovery is taking hold. Some growth has returned and unemployment in most of the 19 Eurozone countries is on the way down. The fact that Ireland and Portugal have made clean exits from their bailouts has also helped to show the euro is here to stay. Marcus.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Next, we're heading off to the United States and to the state of Nevada, where Las Vegas is on a roll. Visitor numbers are booming in this desert city, but as it turns out, gambling is no longer the main attraction, and Vegas is betting on other activities to lure in the crowds and make money. Catherine Viette explains.
For decades, Las Vegas has lured in travelers with the promise of a taste of the high life and a flutter with Lady Luck. But the desert oasis is reinventing itself, and it appears to be paying off big. Tourist numbers have hit record highs, with over 41 million people visiting last year. And the majority of those booking a trip aren't interested in slot machines and blackjack tables. A recent survey found only 12% of visitors said gambling was their primary reason for travel. Gaming revenue has been falling the past several years. It dropped from $9.7 billion in 2013 to $9.5 billion last year. Now hotels are rushing to cater to this new leisure traveler.
They want to have fine dining, they want to have entertainment, they want to have a spa, a day at the spa. Those types of leisure guests we have has completely changed. We didn't have those 6 years ago, and now our property on the weekends is completely full.
Las Vegas tourism generates more than $45 billion in economic impact for the local economy, and supports 376,000 local jobs. Good news for a state hard hit by the country's 2008 recession. Also known as Sin City, its anything goes reputation adds to the allure.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's all about adult freedom. It's all about people's ability to choose, and whether that excess comes in a 10-course dining experience at Joel Robuchon, or it comes from spending your day at a day club.
With hotel occupancy rates hovering around 90%, it seems Vegas may have hit the jackpot.
We'll see if Lady Luck stays with Las Vegas. And with that, we're going to be wrapping up this edition of People and Profit. If you want to get in touch, go to our Facebook page, France 24 Business. You can also tweet me on @MarcusF24. Thank you for watching and see you next time.